It's here, I finally got my upgrade, and it's the new Silvia Pro X dual boiler. I've got a lot to say about this machine and whether or not it's a good choice for those of you out there looking for your upgrade. Is this yet another hastily designed home espresso machine to capitalize on the pandemic boom? Or did Rancilio bring out the big guns with the Silvia Pro X? Let's find out. I'm going to jump into this review headlong with the most important thing, which is the espresso and what this machine feels like to use. I'll sprinkle in some technical information here and there, but I want to focus on the experience of using the Silvia Pro X on a daily basis, as I have been for nearly a month now. I've had some of the best shots I've ever tasted on this machine. Once I got used to using it, I ordered some anaerobic processed Costa Rican geisha beans from a friend of mine who owns a cafe up in Hokkaido, and once I got it dialed in, I had consistently amazing shots. There are a lot of factors that go into making the espresso from this machine great, but the first of these is the amazing thermal stability. This machine is a massive improvement over single boiler machines, even those with a PID, because Rancilio tests the temperature at the group head using the same verified standard they use for the World Barista Championship. The difference in having solid temperatures throughout the pull rather than dropping off because the boiler can't keep up to temperature is absolutely amazing. It's one of those things that you never know you're missing until you try it and then you just never want to go back. I usually set my brew temperature to around 94 degrees C, plus or minus 2 depending on the coffee that I'm using, but you can go all the way up to 100 if you want to experiment with that. The heat up time is also great. If you're in a rush in the morning or you just want to have a quick coffee, it can be really annoying if you have to wait for your machine to heat up a big piece of metal before you can get consistent brew temperatures. I usually wait at least 5 minutes for the machine to heat up, but after that, I've had no problems with consistency in temperatures, and I've pulled back-to-back shots with no issues. The steam boiler does take a little bit longer to heat up, but I have tried using it to steam milk as soon as the light stops blinking, and while it doesn't have as much power as if it's been heating up for a little bit longer, I have been able to do a good flat white or a cappuccino, which is a smaller amount of milk. More on milk steaming performance later on in the video, but for now I want to talk about the look and feel of using this machine every day. There are so many thoughtful inclusions that just make it a joy to use on a daily basis. One example is the automatic timer that pops up when you start a shot. Super handy so I don't have to remember to press the button on my scale. I also love that the letters H2O pop up when you need to refill the tank before you run out of water, so that you don't try and pull a shot without enough water to finish it. These nice little additions make some of those extra steps that I sometimes forget, like refilling the tank or setting the timer, a non-issue. Don't judge me, I'm very forgetful. The workflow is also super smooth with a dual boiler. I used to be running back and forth to the kitchen all day if I was entertaining friends and needed to make multiple espresso and milk-based drinks, and this is an absolute dream to use by comparison. So here's what I do. I weigh out 18 grams of the coffee into the standard basket and grind it into the dosing cup. It goes into the portafilter with a quick 1, 2, 3 of WDT, distribution, and tamp. I don't bother with a puck screen anymore, as the pre-infusion seems to have mostly eliminated the need for it. I set the prepared portafilter aside for a moment while I get my milk jug ready, and then lock in the portafilter and start brewing and steaming my milk at the same time. This is one of the great benefits of going from a single boiler to a dual boiler machine. Doing this at the same time means I can make drinks so much more quickly, and the espresso isn't sitting for a long time waiting for the steam to heat up. Check out my live stream from April 3rd to see how quickly I made drinks for all of my friends. Now, I would guess that it's not going to win any beauty pageants with this industrial looking case, but honestly, this doesn't bother me at all. I like the industrial look, as I did with the original Silvia that sat there before this one. I think it works really well in my space, but what do you think about it? Do you think Rancilio should have gone with an all-new design, or do you like the classic look? What the Pro X lacks in the looks department, it more than makes up for in build quality. Everything feels heavy and premium. The portafilter is the same one Rancilio uses on its commercial machines, and it feels weighty and thick with 2 C's. And I feel like this is the story of this machine, is that Rancilio is trying to make you feel like this is commercial quality. This thing is also built like a tank in the same way as many people would say the original Rancilio Silvia was. It is quite a bit bigger though to fit all of the extras inside. The Pro X is 25 centimeters wide, 39 centimeters tall, and 42 centimeters deep, though I think Rancilio has done a fantastic job of keeping this at a home viable size. Nope. Mine sits very comfortably on my IKEA Sternstorp table, and it's a commanding presence in my room, which is saying a lot because I live in Tokyo, and I only have one room. Every component of this machine feels sweet to use, from the satisfying click of the brew switch to the soft close of the steam knob that means I don't have to tighten it really tight to stop it from leaking like I've had to on other machines. The new pressure gauge, which is an upgrade from the original Silvia Pro, is a really nice to have, and I usually use it when I'm dialing in, though I wonder if it would have been better positioning to have it underneath the brew switch or on the right side of the machine so I can easily check it while I'm steaming milk. In any case, it locks nicely to that 8.5 to 9 bar of pressure with a smooth ramp up from that pre-infusion that I'll talk about a little bit later in this video. The same thing goes for the thoughtfulness of the boilers and how they work. There's a 300ml brew boiler that gives you plenty of space to pull back-to-back shots with great thermal stability, and a 1 litre steam boiler that can comfortably steam 200ml of milk in about 15 to 20 seconds at the same time as you're pulling a shot. There are some caveats I want to talk about later, but you get plenty of power to get a strong vortex and fully incorporate that milk for silky smooth latte art. The steam wand is long, fully actuating, and produces great dry steam. The US and Japan version have a 4-hole steam tip, but I heard that the European version has a 3-hole one, so I tried out both. The difference is subtle, but I personally prefer the 3-hole steam tip because I feel like I get a little bit more power and I can get that roll going a little easier. The functions menu is also really useful and one of the more user-friendly designs that I've seen in a machine like this. Inside the booklet, you'll find a list of the functions and what they do, like simple ones for adjusting the steam boiler temperature or changing the soft pre-infusion timing. There's also a command for emptying the steam or brew boilers, which is incredibly useful if you want to put your machine in storage for a little while. Just a small design thing from me though, it would have been a little bit more useful to have these functions either on the back cover or inside the first page of the manual, because that's the only thing I'm going to be checking this manual for regularly. The insides of the Pro X are really well arranged, and since they're very similar to the Silvia Pro, there are already tons of videos online on how to fix little things for yourself. I had a minor issue where I'd let some grit get into the water tank and it got sucked up into the solenoid valve. You can imagine the swearing, the cursing, the wall thumping, and the asking God why he did this to me that followed. But I was able to find a video online that allowed me to pull off this part and remove the grip from the solenoid valve, completely fixing the machine. I'm not a particularly technical person, but it was so satisfying to be able to fix my own machine without having to call out a technician. Better yet, opening up the machine does not void your warranty. In my post where I asked for questions about the Pro X, somebody asked if opening up the machine and adjusting the OPV valve would void the warranty. I asked my contact at Rancilio and he basically said that you can open up your machine and fix things all you like, and as long as you're not doing anything drastic, like custom mods or clipping wires like some bomb diffusal guy, you should be good. So what's something special inside here that's changed the way I make espresso? Here's something I'm happy to admit that I didn't know much about before getting this machine, and that is variable soft pre-infusion. It makes a huge difference. In short, what it does is it allows water to flow from the group head onto the coffee grinds, saturating them with water before it fully engages pump pressure. You can do anything from being off to 6 seconds long. I've mostly been going with 5 or 6 seconds of pre-infusion, and the difference is stark. With pre-infusion on, there is far less channeling, and on a bottomless portafilter, you can see the difference in how quickly the stream comes together into one rather than with pre-infusion off. This means a more even extraction, a better and more balanced overall flavor, and way more flexibility to experiment with finer grind settings to get more extraction from your coffee. Now, I do wish that pre-infusion wasn't locked at a maximum of 6 seconds. I would have loved to experiment with super long pre-infusions like 10 or 15 seconds long. But as it is, I've been using pre-infusion for almost every one of my shots and I don't want to go back. So let's talk steam. If you've been following me for a while now, you know that I love latte art. Steaming milk properly for latte art is a skill, and having a machine that can do this well is a must for me. But being a dual boiler does not guarantee that you're going to get perfect microfoam milk if you don't know how to use it properly, and I have changed the way that I steam milk just a little bit to get the most out of this machine. Once that light stops blinking and comes on fully, that means the boiler is up to temperature. The thing is that depending on how long you leave it after this, the temperature might come down just a little bit, and you might end up starting with a little less power than you would have if you had started right after the boiler is ready. To get around this, before I start preparing my shot, I open the steam valve into a jar and allow the light to start blinking again, which means it's heating back up to temperature. Then I get my coffee ready, and by the time I've ground my espresso and done my puck prep, the steam is ready to go and I get the full power of that 1 litre steam boiler, which is more than enough to get some of the best microfoam milk I've ever gotten from a home espresso machine. You see, it's not only about the power of the machine, but you've got to learn how to use it. A couple weeks ago, I tried out the Rancilio Specialty machine, which is a $12,000 machine, but I was completely unable to get any decent latte art because I wasn't used to the full power of that machine. With the Pro X, it took me a little while to adjust to the steam power, and I have changed the way that I steam milk in order to get the most out of that 4-hole steam tip. Instead of using the spout to frame where I put the steam wand, I've been putting it in from the side and angling it straight down, which gives me steam in all directions and allows me to get that vortex much more quickly. I am hoping to get some latte art training soon from a pro latte artist, so if you want to watch that video and learn how the pros do it, you should consider subscribing. Another feature that I approve of is that the steam switches on or off globally, so it will stay at whatever setting you put it at. I'm generally using steam every single day, and I wouldn't want to be frustrated by forgetting to turn it on one morning and having to wait for it to heat up. That would suck. What makes this machine such great value is the feature set for the price, especially for a dual boiler machine. At the time of recording, it's around $1,800 for this machine in the United States, but it's also going to launch in Japan soon for 250,000 yen, which is a game-changing value proposition, especially considering that machines usually have 100 to 300% markup in Japan because of the strict importing requirements. In the box are a lot of additional accessories like a brush for cleaning under the group head, and a pretty nice tamp as well. I'm surprised because usually you get one of those horrible plasticky things, but this is a really nice tamp and has replaced the one that I got from Amazon. One of the things I'm not such a big fan of is the blind disc, which is a rubber seal rather than a separate blind basket. It just barely covers all the holes inside the double basket, when it could have been just a few millimeters wider so I don't have to perfectly place it in order to create a proper seal. It fits just fine on the single basket, but I don't want to have to switch out for a single basket every time I need to do a back flush of the machine. It's a very small complaint because it works just fine, and you can buy a separate blind basket if you want one, but I just wish you didn't have to place this so perfectly in order to get a proper seal. They also put a best water technology sachet in the box, which is great for people who live in countries with really hard water. I'm still experimenting for a video about water for coffee, so I used this one for a little bit before taking it out so I could play around with mineral content. While I've loved using this machine and it has made my espresso better every day, it's not a perfect machine and I do have a few thoughts. First, while the rubber holder on the steam wand is pretty decent, I would have loved to see an insulated steam arm. While this might jack up the price a little bit, I just think this is something that all expensive espresso machines should have. I also would have loved another side or hand on the pressure gauge showing the pressure of the steam boiler. It would have been very useful to determine when the steam boiler was at maximum power, especially if you're trying to get to competition level latte art like I am. Yes, I know I have a long way to go. I'm not a technician, but I do love getting the most out of my espresso machine, and maybe you get a little bit more pressure if the temperature of the steam boiler would go above the default of 125 degrees C. I also don't use the wake up function because you have to set it every day, and the machine does make quite a bit of noise when you turn it on, so that would be the worst possible alarm tone. Oh my god. Another small design issue for me is the drip tray and cover. It looks similar to the previous Silvia with slats across the middle and holes at the side. It also has these metal ramps to raise the drip tray a little bit, so if you're only making espresso, this can reduce splashing. But even when it's flat, the steam arm just barely fits under there at the level position, so I haven't really used this feature. Maybe in summer when I'm mostly making espressos for iced lattes, I might use this, but when I put my scale under there, it closes the distance pretty well. The tray itself is reasonably large, but it still has that lip at the front that my old Silvia has, so you have to angle the drip tray to pull it out. I'm not sure why they didn't change this. If you've forgotten to empty the drip tray for a little while, then when you go to pull it out, you're gonna spill it into the base of the machine. I've done this before on my previous machine, and the water comes out through a little hole in the bottom, and it pulls underneath the machine, so you have to move your machine out the way and then clean up around it. It's really annoying. I also wonder if there are ways to make the drip tray on the steam arm side work better when you're flushing the steam. When I angle the wand into the drip tray, it tends to spray a little bit out onto the table, which I guess is part of the problem of having a 4-hole steam tip. Now these are really small and minor complaints that haven't really negatively affected my day-to-day use with the Pro X. I've been having so much fun with this machine, inviting friends over and making coffees for them. It's a much more comfortable experience than other machines I've used in the past. Overall, I would say that the Pro X is a home run for Rancilio. It's an outstanding machine, especially when you consider the price in the dual boiler category. It's got everything I need in a home espresso machine, and I can't see myself upgrading to anything else until my endgame machine or I start a cafe. But what do you think? Are you considering this for a dual boiler upgrade, or do you have your eye on a different machine, and which other machines would you compare it to? Sound off in the comments below with your thoughts about the Silvia Pro X. A massive thank you to Rancilio for sending this machine all the way out to Japan for this review. They did send it to me for free, but this this wasn't a sponsored video and was my total honest impressions of the machine, and I hope I answered most of your questions about it. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, you wonderfully over-caffeinated people. I appreciate you so much for watching all the way to the end of this video and giving me so much motivation to keep making videos on this channel, and I hope to see you back here for the next one.